Well, I've searched around the world, both the light one and the dark one, for the stupid magic wand with the ability to freeze. Can be anywhere, except in the hands of Trinex. Tell me where in the world the
godforsaken ice rod
was it there? I can't leave it with my uncle, but I read with the great books.
Welcome to 216, a link to the Past Randomizer podcast. I am your host, Fear Agent. That intro you heard is from today's guest, DoctorBobtastic. Thought it'd be fun to throw it in there. He talks a little bit about it at the end of his interview, and we talk about his music throughout the interview as well. So if you want more of it, I've included a link. He's got a lot of different songs, a lot of parody songs related to Link to the Past that you can check out over at his SoundCloud. They're a lot of fun. Dr. Bob is the guest today. Had a great conversation with him. It took place prior to the admin votes. We talk a little bit about him applying for admin. Speaking of TARC, lots of stuff going on over there. We are holding a vote for the legalization of the Specky clip. We're basically rewinding the clock and saying everything pre-Specky clip is exactly the same, and the community gets to vote on whether we should allow the Specky clip in Swamp. So the vote is happening Wednesday, the 30th of August, and it will go for a week. And anyone that has raced at least one time in the past year, either on SRL or on the ladder, has a chance to vote. I don't want to turn the 216 podcast into the TARC admin talks section, so I'm going to keep that stuff kind of brief. It's already created a little bit of conflict in myself where now that I am a TARC admin and having to do things that are sometimes unpleasant, takes away from what it is that I enjoy the most, and that's doing the show. My retirement didn't last a full year. I've been doing some races, and that is just to get ready for the league. The league's the only tournament that I'm going to do. No main tournament, no cross keys tournament, even though I love cross keys, it's still my favorite mode. No Kaz boots, nothing. I'm not doing any tournaments except for the league. The league is fun. I get to play. My team and I figured out our schedule, and I think I'm going to play 6 games over 7 weeks. So it's not a huge commitment. You know, the playoffs, if we make it, fingers crossed, is a bit more of a commitment, but that's fine. I've done some pickup races here and there just to get familiar with everything, kind of get muscle memory back, which is going to change because the Fast ROM is coming. As far as we know, Thursday, the 31st of August, the Fast ROM is coming. That's what they've said. Fast ROM, I think, is cool. The Fast ROM removes lag, pretty much all of the lag that you're used to when you're playing the game. It makes the game feel different. There's no denying that. I understand why NMG runners, specifically, people that have put a lot of time into this game, don't like it because it changes the game pretty dramatically. It just feels like a different game. It really does. Now, having been playing this game for the last, 5 years, I'm all for it. I like the Fast ROM. I like things going faster. I'm already of the opinion that this is not vanilla game. I mean, we've got quick swap. We've got no text. You have new sprites. To me, it's a ROM hack. So I'm for it. I like it. I played with it. I thought it was really enjoyable. I 100% sympathize and understand the frustrations. And I think that it stinks that we're going to be losing people from the community. People are not going to play because it's not Link to the Past anymore. It's just not. And that really stinks. To me, that's not worth losing. I think the way that it's rolled out has been awful, by the way. That's the real problem. It's it's coming and people are just finding out about it the week of or the week before. And there's nothing that we could do. There's legit nothing we can do. You could complain, but the response to the complaints have been, this is our game and deal with it. And that sucks. That's just a very Nintendo way of going about things. Not crazy about that. The rollout has just not been good. I feel like there was a way to roll this out where the community would actually be behind it, but they've done the exact opposite, and it's gotten a lot of people upset. People are going to be upset by change. There's no way to avoid that. There's shit we've had to do as admins already that people are going to be upset by. You can't avoid it, but you can try to mitigate it. So am I for the Fast ROM? I am. I'm for it. I welcome it. It's coming. And I'm really sad that we're going to be losing people from the community that want Link to the Past Randomizer to be and feel like Link to the Past. And again, I 100% empathize and sympathize with them, and it stinks. It's a weird position to be in, right? Like, you enjoy something, but you understand why people don't enjoy it. We'll see. It's happening right before the league, so get your practice in before league starts. I think the biggest differences are the bosses. You'll notice just like walking, it feels faster. But the real big differences are the bosses. Trinex, Argus, Helmasaur, Moth, Cold Stare, all of them feel way different. Not that you can't get used to it, but if you spend a lot of time practicing those bosses, get to practicing again. And there's another problem. There's no practice hack for it. So just got to run seeds, I guess. There's a lot to be excited about, though. League's coming. I'm super excited for it. Like I said, I've been playing some seeds. I've been doing some practice, getting my fingers warmed up so that I don't make a fool of myself. Excited about my team. Excited about the season. Should be a lot of fun. And then when the season's over, I can go back to retirement and come out for League. All right, let's get to today's guest, Dr. Bobtastic. Had a really great conversation with Dr. Bob. Just had a great time getting to know him, like someone who's been a part of the community for as long as he has. I've never really sat down and talked with him. I think I've done commentary less than a handful of times with him. I haven't raced with him a lot, not in the same circles. So I haven't had a lot of conversations with him. And this one was great. I just really enjoyed getting to know Bob. I will say that he shares some stuff late in the interview that's pretty tough to hear about some of the things that are going on in his personal life. So I do want to give a warning on that. I really appreciated Bob sharing, though. Like, it's tough, and going through that stuff and trying to escape to a game and then have to try to manage the drama that goes along with that game can be tough. Just want the game to be an escape from some of the real world issues that we all have to deal with. So yeah, I'm excited for you to hear this interview. So let's get to it. Here's Dr. Bob. All right, Dr. Bob, super excited to have you on the show. We haven't had a lot of interactions in the community the last few years. We may have done some comms together once or twice, but when I first started playing the game, I want to say it was you on comms that really sparked a really big interest for me into what racing was and had become. Because I think you did a lot of comms. I want to say in like the 512 Swiss. I think you were doing quite a bit of comms back then.
That's very true. I did a whole lot of commentary back then. I like to do commentary because it's the one thing I know that I'm actually reasonably decent at.
Sure.
As far as the game goes, whatever. But
Yeah.
I really do like talking about it and trying to get people hyped up about what's happening and different things on the stream.
Well, you did a really good job for me, at least, because it kind of brought me into the community. Because, you know, when you first start watching, you don't know who any of the players are. And, you know, I was familiar with the game or whatever, but I didn't know what randomizer was. And then having you on comms with a bunch of different people, there were so many games with 512 Swiss being broadcast on Speed Gaming at the time. But your commentary was just so good and really like drove home like, oh, this is something that I got to check out and want to be a part of. So first of all, thank you for doing that. And also, you son of a bitch,
honestly.
you son of a bitch, you drew me in and got me hooked. And now here we are a few years later. But
I mean, I do not apologize for that. But yeah, thanks for the kind words. I don't know if I've been as active in the commentary booth or even in the streams or even in the game itself over the last few years or last year or so, but you're
always popping in here and there. It feels like again, back in 2018 when that 512 Swiss was going on, you were all over the place. And then as the years have gone by, and I'm sure we'll get into it, you pop in here and there for some commentary, or you play a little bit here or there for a different tournament or a different race or whatever. So I've definitely seen you around, but we haven't had a lot of interaction. So super excited to hear your story and kind of get to know you a bit more. So again, thanks for doing this.
Well, I'd love to help you out with that. I don't know how interesting it's going to be, but we'll see.
It's going to be great. So as far as gaming goes, were you gaming a lot as a kid? Did you grow up playing like the NES or? So
yeah, my first, I did play a little bit of my cousin's like Atari 2600 for a little while, but the first gaming system we ever owned was a NES. Actually, the first person in my family to own an NES was my grandmother
Oh, okay.
And we actually got her a Nintendo system after her husband died, just to give her something to do, right?
Yeah.
And so she got the Super Mario and Duck Hunt and was shooting things, and she got The Legend of Zelda as well. And there's one thing I always remember, and it's possible I may have made this up in my head,
Sure.
but I feel like this is a real thing, because I would play Zelda, at that age, but I was like 5, right? 4 or 5 years old, and I was not good.
Sure.
I could beat like the first level and the second level, maybe. Third level is what gave me trouble because the darknets would just not cooperate.
Sure.
But one day I go to visit my grandmother, and she sits me down at the game, and she sits there and has me have the controller, but maybe also her helping out a little bit, and she walks me through level 9 of Zelda. I think I was probably 7 or 8 at this time.
Wow.
And she walked me through it, and I think she had already killed Ganon at that point, and the Triforce was just laying there when you got into Ganon. So I just picked it up and walked to the end. And I was like, that is cute.
That is awesome. And sounds like you have a pretty kick-ass grandma too, if she's taking down Ganon.
Mm-hmm.
In the Legend of Zelda. I mean, that's not easy, especially back in the day.
She's no longer with us, but she was, and she was really great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely imprinted on you, right? Like a love of video games. Then, if she was playing and kind of helping you out and showing you how cool it was, that's really cool.
I think I finally ended up beating the original Zelda like when I was 9 or something. It took a long time. And by that time, the Super NES was out, but our family didn't have one yet. In fact, we never actually owned a Super NES growing up, so I didn't have access to Link to the Past. I played it at a couple of friends' house occasionally, and then I might have tracked down certain copies of it on the internet growing up. I don't know what you're talking about.
Sure.
Yeah. But that was definitely a thing. But one of the things about that, and this is just another weird anecdote, the version of the emulation software I was using and the computer I was using, it was like an old 486 computer, right? And the version of the software that was running on there, for some reason, it would always freeze when you got a crystal in Link to the Past. So I was able to play through all 7 of the Dark World dungeons, but I was never able to get into Ganon's Tower because I never actually had a crystal.
That's so funny. Bad emulation. That's hilarious. So, were you aware of the Super Nintendo as a kid? Did your friends have it, and were you playing it when you're over there?
Yeah, we had a Genesis at the time, so we just had the same level console, just not the same time. It's just my brother and I had saved up money to buy a console, and I wanted to get the Super Nintendo, and he wanted to get the Genesis. And I, being the older brother, just decided, you know what, we'll let you have your way. I'm okay with this. There's going to be good games either way. And, I don't regret having the Genesis, but I don't, it's some of the...
It was the wrong choice, right?
It was.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, there's some good games on the Genesis, but come on, the Super Nintendo was better, for sure.
It was. Yeah, and I eventually, caught up on that front as far as playing the Super Nintendo games that I really missed out on, like your Final Fantasies and your Super Mario RPG and your all the Mario World stuff.
Yeah. Was there, because I never had a Genesis, I only played that at my cousin's house or my friend's house. Was there any good like multiplayer or co-op games for you and your brother to play together?
Let me see. I mean, we always enjoyed playing the Sonic games with one of us doing Sonic, one was playing Tails.
Yeah, that's right.
That was always fun. But there wasn't like a whole ton of
Toe Jam and Earl. Did you play that?
We didn't have that one, unfortunately. It's a good one.
Sure.
But we didn't have that one growing up.
Yeah. So as far as gaming goes, did you continue on with more modern consoles as they were released? Yeah.
So when the N64 came out, we saved up as soon as we could to get one of those. And on my birthday, or I asked for on my 13th birthday, I asked for Ocarina of Time because I believe it had come out. So my birthday is November the 27th. So my 13th birthday would have been November the 27th, 1996. So no, it would. I guess Ocarina of Time was 98, wasn't it?
Yeah, it gets blurry when you start thinking back.
So I guess it was my 15th birthday that I asked for it.
Okay.
But it came out in November of that year, so it was very recent when it came out. And I got a hold of it, and I played the snot out of it.
So good.
Just as much as I could.
Did you get
actually before that? Probably my most played Zelda game before that was Link's Awakening. I had a ton of time.
Oh yeah.
I had a Game Boy, and I discovered like a whole bunch of dumb stuff on that on my own, right? So I learned that you could do the screen skip in that game. You know the screen skip?
I don't know it, but I'm sure
so
other people do.
Basically, you in that game on the overworld, or even in the underworld, really, I think, because the way the map works, when you go to a transition, the first thing it does is updates your map coordinate. But then if you pull up the map, it interrupts the screen transition.
Okay.
And so you end up at the same position on the next map if you hit the map button as your screen transitioning.
Okay.
So you can skip over entire obstacles and everything. And
did you discover that on your own? Because there wasn't
that I did not internet. Discover on my own. I did see a couple of like random posts on random internet things. Like this was like AOL,
early internet,
ridiculousness. Anyways, I saw that. And from there, I tried some things like entering caves from the top, which gives you like completely different transitions and all sorts of shenanigans. And this was well before I knew anything about how computers really worked.
Sure. So,
yeah.
So you weren't really playing Link to the Past then?
No, not really. Like, I mean, I had, like I said, I had played a lot of Link to the Past, like on the emulator, and tried to play through a bunch of things. And I knew where a lot of the things were. And I actually had, and this is weird, but growing up, my grandmother as well also, because they got the NES early on, so that also came with a subscription to Nintendo Power.
Oh, right.
And so as part of that, one of the issues was like the big guide on Link to the Past, right?
Oh, okay, sure.
So I have that. That is currently sitting in my office at the school that I teach. Is
that's awesome.
My Link to the Past guide. It's pretty great.
That is so cool.
It's a very fun thing because it's kind of written in like a third person story thing. It's like, so Link found himself in the mire, and here's the thing he did here, blah blah blah. And yes, I can confirm it does say use bombs on Helmasaur. Things like that.
Yeah. Oh wow,
it absolutely does.
That's awesome. That is so good. All right, so you're playing 64. You said Ocarina of Time was the first game you got. Did you add a lot to that collection? Were you playing?
Oh yeah, we had plenty of. We had Super Mario 64 before, like for Ocarina of Time, a few other games, but mostly, we rented some games here and there. But Ocarina of Time was the first one that I just really was like, I want this one. It's mine. We did that, and then we did not Ocarina of Time, but
Majora's Mask.
Majora's Mask, yeah. Some of that as well.
Sure.
I had a little fan website for Zelda growing when I was like 13, 14, 15. I mean, that's some dumb stuff. I'm sure like if you went trolling through the Internet Archives, you could find some remnant of it, but I'm
that you wrote? You made a website for it?
I flipping made it.
Oh, wow.
Because HTML was easy.
Sure. It's just that early HTML, sure. What was the URL? Do you remember?
Not off the top of my head, honestly.
So was it like one of those like GeoCity sites or?
It was for a while. There was some. Oh, I think I was on like the AOL like love your stuff there.
Yeah.
And then I eventually transferred to another hosting service that had a little more behind it. But yeah, it was just silly, dumb stuff.
I mean. Nostalgia bomb right here. I just remember going through all those early, website builders that were, just teaching HTML and all the different images you could put in and text and fonts and stuff. Oh man, yeah, that's so funny. I'm sure I made some like crappy websites way back then, but it's all long gone now. So did your love for Nintendo continue on after the 64, or did you start moving into other stuff?
We got the GameCube when I was about to graduate high school. I did the whole Wind Waker thing. I remember, so I had a friend, shout outs to Matt. He was, so I played through Wind Waker on the GameCube, and then he was playing through Wind Waker on my GameCube, and at some point it crashed, and it actually crashed because the read head on the GameCube got all weird, like the light. So it broke the GameCube, and you had to go like actually get it repaired. Right. And so he did that. The thing is, he also was playing Wind Waker on someone else's GameCube, and the same thing happened.
Oh, jeez.
So he tried to play it twice, and the world and the universe was like, no.
Yeah, that is hilarious.
And then, from there, I do remember camping out the very first day that the Wii was going to be released. Mm-hmm. Like literally outside of a Fry's in Dallas. And my brother and his friend and I went in there and got a Wii on the first day it came out, and also got Twilight Princess with it. Did that.
That's awesome. And then, I remember camping out we camped out for the Wii. I wasn't even buying it. My friend was buying it, but we just camped out with him. And also I remember camping out for the 360 too, which I don't feel like people really do anymore, but that's probably for the better. Also because I guess like with new consoles, they're not even available right away. It took forever for the PS5 stock to like be manageable. But
yeah, a lot of Zelda games growing up. I also kind of got real big on the Final Fantasies and the RPGs in general, and maybe like tabletop RPGs and like all sorts of extremely nerdy things that like you do.
Totally. Like you do. I totally understand. Did you dabble in like Magic the Gathering at all?
Shoot, I could pull. I got a box behind me, like 5,000 cards or so, that just from random stuff. But mostly with that, I just do like drafts.
Yeah, sure. That's the best way to play for sure.
I don't have the time or the mental effort to put together decks. Mm-hmm. But if there's like a limited situation where you've got a certain card pool to build from, and then you build that deck from there. Yeah, that's the stuff I'm into.
For sure. Were you doing it back in the late 90s and early 2000s?
I did a little bit early on, but like that was when I was like 12 or 13 again, and then I didn't. Most of those cards either got destroyed or lost, and none of them were really expensive or anything. I didn't have the real early track on that. And then, of course, because you're going to do what you're going to do, Pokemon cards kind of took over from there.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So your gaming went from Magic to Pokemon?
Yeah, and then I rediscovered Magic sort of at the end of grad school.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So you're gaming your entire life, whether it's a Nintendo stuff or tabletop or card games. Your gaming is part of who you are then.
Oh yeah, real big.
And it seems like Nintendo had its hooks in you then as well.
Yeah, I did have up until once I got to where I had sort of my own money, I would generally have whatever Nintendo console was most relevant, and then a little bit into the cycle, I'd usually get the Sony console as well, just because that's where some of the
Final Fantasy
games and like the Final Fantasy games. Yeah, I literally just finished Final Fantasy 16 the other day, so
sure, yeah, that makes sense. What about like you mentioned playing a little bit with your brother early on? Did co-op or playing competitive or any sort of game that has multiple people in it kind of ever sink its teeth in you at all?
So my brothers and I would play a lot of things. My youngest brother was really into Smash Bros. I played the original Smash Bros on the N64. I got reasonably good at that. When I say reasonably good, I mean we were able to unlock Luigi. Okay, that's good enough. Yeah, because that was actually a reasonable challenge. Was unlocking Luigi.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But like my youngest brother was really the one who was mostly into that. I enjoy Smash Bros, but I'm one of those people who's weird and likes it when you turn the items on because I like having a chance.
Sure. Yeah.
My other brother Philip My second youngest brother. So I have two brothers. One of them is 2 years younger than me, and one of them is 5 years younger than me. Philip and Brian. And growing up, we'd play games on various systems. Philip was maybe not as into it as some of the rest of us, but he was pretty into GoldenEye when we had that on the 64.
Yeah.
And we did, classic split screen multiplayer on there.
For sure.
Yeah. Never said I was any good at it, but it was kind of fun.
For
and
sure.
Of course, Odd Job was completely banned because
Yep.
not allowed.
Yeah. I mean, so much of my arguments with my brother and my friends came from playing GoldenEye. Like there was just so much. We'd have so much fun, and then someone would get tilted, and then we'd start yelling at each other, and then mom would make us turn it off. And then we get mad because the person got so tilted that we had to stop playing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. For sure.
I'm just glad it wasn't Mario Kart, because that could just get way worse.
Oh, Mario Kart. Yes. Mario Kart, because everyone can play Mario Kart. Like it feels like you have to have a little bit of, gaming skills to play a first person shooter and be, at least somewhat competitive with the group that you're playing. But Mario Kart, it feels like everyone can pick up. And so the other thing, someone the blue shell. Yeah.
The other thing that was major in the formative years of my life, at least as far as, so I had the gaming stuff and really nerdy stuff, but I also was really big into music and singing and things like that in general. I don't know if you know about the songs or not. But,
I remember a few. Yeah.
But I'm gonna drop a link here into the SoundCloud chat or I'm gonna drop a SoundCloud link into the setup chat here.
Okay.
So you can see it. This is all of the songs that I've made for various things on this.
Okay.
And, there's a lot of them that I really do like, and some of them are just dumb and not any good anymore. But,
okay.
But one of the things that I had growing up, and this is, there's a little bit of religious stuff in here, but my family was raised in a church where not only was music a big thing, but it was one of those churches where they don't use instrumental music. And so everything was a cappella.
Okay.
And so we got real good at doing like vocal harmonies and parts and things like that.
Wow.
And so one of the things our family will do, even to this day, if we can all get in one place, is just occasionally just burst out into 4-part harmony for no reason, because that's what we do.
Yeah, that's great.
And so that's the other big thing culturally that I've done. And so I've attempted to, meld those two a little bit when I write some songs, make some songs about randomizers and various things like that. But it has been a while since I've recorded a song.
Do you play any instruments, or did you continue on with the idea of just doing a cappella stuff?
I mostly do a cappella recording stuff, but I have occasionally dabbled in some instruments. I can at least do rhythm guitar stuff. I got a few chords here and there. I've got, I played the French horn in the band
nice.
in school, and I have a French horn here belonging to my brother that I have recently made work again. I'm trying to see if I still got that in me. But
all right. So music was playing a big part as well as gaming then as you're growing up. Mm-hmm. It sounds like for your whole family as well.
And my father actually was a band director at various schools growing up until he changed his profession to physical therapy, because that, being a school band director, first of all, you're a school teacher, so you're making next to nothing, and you're also a band director, so you're probably making less.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So as you're getting older and you're playing more games, your name is Dr. Bob. I'm taking it you went to school past high school.
Yeah, I do in fact hold a PhD in computer science.
Okay. So does gaming kind of take a step back as you're getting older, or is it still just as important to you as you're going through your PhD?
You would think it might go back, but honestly, some of the games I was playing during my grad school and during my first few years as faculty, they honestly helped keep me sane a little bit.
Yeah.
And also now at the school that I'm teaching at, I teach two courses. I teach a course on Unity and I teach a course on Unreal. And so every semester I'm doing some course on game development. So it's at least relevant to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I've even done some really dumb things with my courses. So I have a projects course in the summer for data science, for our data science graduate program. And so there's 2 projects courses. In the second half, I generally be like, okay, this is your thing. You do what project you want to do. You let me know and we'll figure it out. For the first half, I have a prescribed project. And what I do is I provide them with 25,000 spoiler logs, linked to the Past Randomizer. And I tell them, and now your goal is, if someone hands you a partially completed spoiler log and asks, where's the most likely location to contain this item, give me like a top 10 list. And it's an interesting dynamic. It's not, no one's ever gotten like a really, really good version of the product that could be used like in the middle of a race. So I'm not really worried about it.
Right. That's super awesome though. That's so cool that you're able to bring that into what you're doing for a living though as well. That's super cool. Do the kids that you're teaching ever think like, hey, maybe I should start playing Link to the Past Randomizer?
I have had one student at least who ended up joining some of the randomizer stuff. I know for sure one. Let me see if I can remember his name. I know he was in the Mentor tournament a while back.
Is it Gamachu?
It's not Gamachu.
Okay.
I can't remember what name he was using. I can't even remember the student's actual name.
Sure.
It was really sad. But I know I had them in class, and then they showed up to my stream like, oh, yeah.
That's pretty cool, though. That's even if you got one, that's still pretty cool, even temporarily.
Yeah.
So as someone that's building on the platforms that you're talking about or teaching about those platforms, did computer gaming play a part in your development as far as gaming goes?
We had some games on the PC and things like that growing up. My Aunt Margaret, who is basically just me, only like 50 years older. She, when I was 10 years old, she has this tradition where she takes all of her nephews on a trip when they turn 10. And so when I was 10, I went to go visit her, and she had the original Doom on her computer, and I got really into that, like the old school Doom.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I ended up getting that, and I also got some of the software you can use to like make levels in Doom. Messed around a little bit with that when I was younger. I was able to figure out what was going on with that a little bit. And then I played like the Warcraft, StarCraft games. A little bit growing up. I was not good, but I could at least get through the campaign eventually.
Sure. Any MMORPGs like sink their teeth in you at all?
So I did. So I didn't actually get into MMOs until I got into college. And I got into Final Fantasy 11 real hard. Okay. And then I did World of Warcraft for a while, and then I got into 14, and I'm still playing 14. What you can
is that an MMO?
Yeah, Final Fantasy 14 is also an MMO version. So 11 is an MMO, and then 14 is an MMO.
Okay. And the newest one is 16. You said
16 is a single player game.
Okay.
And it's very different, but it's still pretty fun. So Final Fantasy 14, honestly, or any time with all the MMOs, really, with the exception of Final Fantasy 11, which I was just kind of into on its own. The only time I ever got into an MMO was because I had friends already who were into it. And
sure, yeah, that makes sense.
So when I got into World of Warcraft, there were other people I knew who were playing it and wanted me to join them, and so I did. Mm-hmm. And then with Final Fantasy 14, I had some other friends. Or like my little brother was playing it, and some other people I knew were playing it, and so I got in on that. And then eventually we started, playing together fairly often. Honestly, a lot of those people don't really play that much anymore, but that's a whole nother can of worms.
I mean, that kind of is how a lot of it works, right? You get friends that get you into the game, and then they stop playing it, and then you're still playing it years later. It's like, what happened here? Yeah. I find that happens more often than I'd probably like. Okay, so we're similar age. It sounds like you're a little bit younger than me, but when do you find? I think maybe.
Yeah, I'm 39. Oh.
Yeah, you're definitely younger than me.
Okay.
So when do you then find speedrunning or Twitch or any of that stuff? Was there any thoughts of doing speedruns or looking into speedruns, or did you find that through GDQ, or where did that come?
Let's see. So my first real interest in speedruns was when I started seeing some videos of Super Mario 64 speedruns.
Okay.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
I saw somebody doing the 16-star speedrun that was really interesting to me, because you had all these little tricks and glitches to get in places.
Right.
And I actually saw it. I think it was being played in the corner of a TV show on G4.
Okay.
Like back in the day, they were one of those X-Play episodes with them. So that's what they had, and they had that being played in the corner while some other stuff was going on, so you could see it happening. I was like, this is more interesting than what's on the rest of the screen.
For sure, make it bigger.
Yeah. But yeah, they would occasionally cut back to it when the interesting things were happening. And I eventually looked into finding more videos of speedruns and came across the whole Twitch thing. And as far as rando goes, the way it worked, I believe I was originally, as far as looking into or getting into the whole rando and speedrunning things, as far as this goes, I was looking into, I think I was watching The Mexican Runner at the time.
Okay.
You know who that is?
Yeah.
At the time, he was doing his NES Mania thing where he's trying to beat every single NES game on stream.
Okay.
And there were some other people who were also watching at the time. And so one of those people that I recognized from his audience was a guy named Yogi the Monk, that guy. And
not familiar with him.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I remember about him from that stream is he was the one who forced TMR to play Arkanoid, which is an absolute nightmare to try to beat legitimately.
Okay. Sure.
But anyway, I was just like running around on Twitch. I found his channel, and he was practicing for Link to the Past Randomizer tournament. And this was back on version 18.
Okay.
So way back when.
2017, maybe?
Yeah. I think it was like the first big rando tournament that happened.
Wow.
And I was like, this is cool. And so I would look into it and I'd be like, oh, he's going to go be a part of this tournament here. And, and I went over to Speed Gaming and saw the runs that were happening and how it was happening. I was like, oh, this is cool. I kind of want to do this. And I tried it out. I was like, this is neat. And then I joined the next time I could. I actually joined the weekly standard race that's happening at the time on Saturday. And this was right in the middle of the big blow up of the tournament at the time. And I hold the dubious distinction of the first person to ever finish in 100th place in a Link to the Past randomizer race. That was my first race ever, and it was a standard race. I think I finished in like 240 or 250 or something.
Okay.
Like it was real late, but I wasn't last. And
you weren't last?
No, there were like 115 or 117 people signed up for that race.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
I mean, man, I just think about, because I remember when I joined, obviously the ladder wasn't around when I joined, and obviously when you joined the community, but big races were how we raced the game. It was just really large pickup races, and the 1-in-1s were reserved for tournament racing.
Right.
And there wasn't as many tournaments back then. So when I joined the community, it was very common to see 70, 80 people in a race. And when even when I joined in 2018, there was talk of like, oh man, I missed the good old days when there was like 120 people joining, right? Like, so it sounds like you were
I was right there in the thick of it, right?
When there was 120 people joining races, which is just bananas.
I'm real great about jumping on the bandwagon just when it gets big.
Sure. That first race you did, had you run seeds offline or done any practice?
I had done a little bit offline. I had learned a few new things about the game because I was just playing around with it, and I was like, I think I remember, pretty much everything where everything is in this game, and of course I didn't. But like my very first seed that I finished offline, I'm pretty sure was like 4 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But I think I had done that one, and then I started a couple others, but never actually finished them before doing the race.
That's impressive because I feel like most people's stories, they practice a bunch before jumping into races, but you're just like, nope, let's go. let's just jump right into it. Yeah, that's hilarious. And also, again, early 2017 or mid 2017, there's not as many resources. Like I don't even think Emo Tracker was a thing. I don't know how many different trackers were available, if at all. Maybe like Code Tracker.
I had a tracker. Can't remember exactly which one it was, but I know I had one that I would constantly leave unchecked because I'm terrible.
Right.
And then when they started announcing auto tracking was going to be a thing, I was like, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't remember. I can't click things. This is why I don't do tracking for streams. It's just like you don't want me to do that.
Yeah, for sure. So you start racing. Do you then sort of jump into commentary as well, or do you continue with racing?
So honestly, while I was watching the stream, and I heard what people were doing on the commentary and that sort of thing. I heard DT do his little duck song thing. I was like, that's cool. I can kind of. I tried to steal that a couple times. I mean, what
duck song thing? You have to. I don't know what this is.
Are you not aware of the duck song thing?
I'm not aware of the duck song. So,
in the name of DT, he did some commentary in that tournament, and he occasionally, like the 3 times he did that I was listening to, he came up with lyrics for the flute song.
Okay.
And sang them as they were happening.
Okay.
And I was like, that's neat. That sounds like a tradition I could carry on. And so I started doing that on mine. And some people love it, and some people are like, no.
Right. To the point where singing is now banned, as far as I know.
Yeah.
In commentary.
I don't think they banned it because of me.
I'm pretty sure it's not because of you. I think there was others that were a little bit more, let's just call them egregious as far as singing goes, that probably shouldn't. More, I guess, memey. There's something clever about the songs that you were doing.
I would at least write out some lyrics beforehand and try to be on pitch, that sort of thing. But,
Sure.
I will admit that there are some people who said, you're not a very good singer on that. And I will admit I'm not a very good singer on that particular song because it's in a weird spot for my voice. It's in a very weird register.
Mm-hmm.
So I either have to do it real low. Just go.
Is that one of the songs on the SoundCloud? Do you have that on the SoundCloud?
There is one. I have a.
Okay.
I think the one I have on there is called Swag Duck Corral.
And so you came up with lyrics for different versions of the song, basically. So when you were doing,
yeah,
okay.
So basically, I'd try to come up with relevant lyrics for like the race that was happening or something like that.
Okay.
And make it fit with the theme.
I see.
But yeah, and there's one recording of sort of the first lyrics I came up with, which was, I am the duck of swag, cause a little lag, got this in the bag, you set me free, and if you should forget all the things you have left, well then here's your best bet, just flute to 3. Yeah.
That's great. I miss some of that stuff. Like, you know how like some people ruin it for everyone? That's kind of where I feel like with singing is there's just for certain people that ruined it for everyone. And the fact that people have missed out on Dr. Bob's songs, I feel like is a real miss for the community as well.
So I'll still occasionally do it. I'll still try to do it when I'm actually running on my stream, but they're not prepared in advance. So I'm just making up the lyrics as I go, and
Sure.
they're terrible.
Sure.
And then I did say I reserve the right to do those if I ever do commentary for like the Speed Gaming Dailies or something like that, because no one actually cares.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, commentary is in a different place where like they could use as many commentators as possible now. And so, bring it back. Bring it back when you're doing some comments.
Yeah, maybe.
So So you see DT and you're like, hey, this seems like fun. Let me try this out. Is that kind of how it went?
Yeah, basically. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to, try to sign up for commentary things here and there. I signed up for commentary for the next tournament coming up. And I didn't actually get selected as a commentator for the main tournament, but I was selected as one for the secondary tournament that was happening.
Right. The pre-Challenge Cup. Yeah.
Yeah. And this was before the big 512. I think it was the previous tournament to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I joined in that, and the very first match I did, or maybe it wasn't the first match, but it was one pretty early on, was Hazukitty versus Salvotender.
Okay, lovely.
Okay?
Yep.
Hazukitty versus Salvotender, and Hazukitty at the time was very, very new to the game.
Mm-hmm.
How new to the game? The commentary lasted 8 hours.
Oh my gosh. They kept the stream going for 8 hours?
And I was fine. I wanted to keep going.
Wow.
Me and the other guy in the booth, I can't remember exactly who it was. It might have been Basley.
Okay.
But there was one other person. There was someone else in the booth who was just as big a trooper as I was, and we just kept doing it. And I think
That's
that
impressive.
caught somebody's attention.
Sure.
And, like, the very next day, we were sort of called up to the main tournament.
That's awesome. That is such a good story. I had no idea. 8 hours is incredible. That's incredible.
And it was a ton of fun, even if it was taking a long time. It was great.
Sure. Oh man, that's too funny. Okay, so it seems like pretty quickly you kind of find a spot in the community that you enjoy with racing and commentary. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I enjoyed all that stuff. At that point, I did start looking more into like actual work or actual improvement of commentary skills in general. Like I wanted to look into, like how to play the different roles of commentary. If you're going to be the play-by-play person, or
right,
the color person, or if you're going to do a little of both here and there. And I just made it my goal to be able to adapt to whatever my co-commentator was doing at the time.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you have a stronger role as far as a color commentator or as a play-by-play? One you prefer?
I'm usually better at the whole play-by-play thing, just because I like to keep things moving. I've got sort of this aversion to dead air time, if I can help it. And so, talking about the things as they come up, and asking questions occasionally. I don't consider myself to be like an expert player at the game, of course. I do know, about all the logic and all the different, the different tricks and things you can do, at least the ones that are legal in standard races.
Sure.
I could not tell you all of the overworld glitches and things like that, although I did participate in the overworld glitches mentor tournament one time, because I just wanted to learn some of that.
Yeah.
But I like to learn those sorts of things, and I've done quite a bit of it. And as I said, it's kind of tapered off over the last year or so, just because I've been a little bit occupied with other things, but treading water a bit. But yeah.
Sure. So in early 2017, 2018, let's say up until the 512, are you running a lot of races? Are you doing a lot of commentary?
I usually would like to participate in weekly races, that sort of thing, when it was happening. The Speed Gaming daily races were happening occasionally.
And you're seeing the development of the game, because the version that you're playing, I feel like you said version 18, was that?
Started on 18. It was V21 for the first tournament I participated in.
Okay. Did that have progressive items in it? Like I remember
21 was the first one to have progressive.
Okay.
Version 18 did not, and you could definitely find Gold Sword on Uncle. And that's
right.
Great.
Right. Yeah.
Like earlier versions than that, you could have you could find Gold Sword, and then you could find Fighter Sword later, and it would replace it.
Right. Yeah. Yep. That was when they were still really figuring everything out.
Yeah.
So as the community is growing, because 2018, I feel like there's certain spots in time where the community really grows. 2018 was a big one with the Andy Christos GDQ match. 2020, obviously with COVID and everyone staying home.
I think that was the year I actually went to SGDQ for the first time.
The Andy Christos one.
I think I was there at that particular
GDQ.
Q.
Such a good one.
I think they had Willard and Patty and stuff on commentary.
Yeah.
I was there. I was like, if you want me to help out with things, I could do that. But they had it covered, so I wasn't going to worry about it.
Sure.
There was always some sort of rando going on in the practice room, always.
Yeah.
You could always get involved in that. Sometimes there was like NMG stuff, so I learned a little bit about that. I remember one of the things we did that year, we had an impromptu race between four of us for the 100% category of Link to the Past, which none of us had ever done.
Awesome.
And so, getting real late into the run, so some people were like, "Is there a heart piece in Meyer Shed?" I was like, "Yes."
That's great. Did you ever attempt to do any NMG to help with execution or anything?
I have. I think I have done one timed NMG run in my life.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not opposed to doing it. It's just not the sort of grind I want to subject myself to.
Sure.
I know that if I really, really wanted to get good at randomizer, that is a really good way to improve that. But
I would say it's a way. There's there's plenty of really good runners that don't run NMG, but
you could do a lot of practice on individual rooms and stuff, just using the practice hack and that sort of thing. Yep. But again, I also don't really have the patience or the discipline necessary to do that kind of execution training, which is why I'm not as good at the game as some other people. And I'm okay with this.
Yeah. At least you're aware of it, right? It's not this idea that I should be better at the game, even though I'm not putting the time in to practice the game, right?
No, I'll learn the tricks I need to do, and I'll learn the ways I can do it. And then sometimes it'll end up being slower than some other people, and my muscle memory will get stuck on the slow one, and very much I could do about it at that point. Other than spend a bunch of time trying to change that. And if it's gonna get me 3 seconds in a race somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
So I did learn how to hover. So what do I know?
Nice. Sure. Hovering isn't as hard as people make it out to be.
No, it is not. It does help to have physical hardware.
Sure.
Your emulators and your connections, your controllers and whatnot are going to have some sort of delays within them, and it's going to be nasty.
But there's plenty of people that learned how to hover, including myself, on emulator, so it can happen. So it feels like 2018 was when you were everywhere. I felt again like you were doing so much commentary with the 512 Swiss that was going on. I'm sure you're racing a lot as well. You were in the 512 Swiss as well, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
It feels like everyone had to be a part. If there was 512 people, anyone playing the game or just around the game had to be playing.
I think I finished with an even record or one loss above or something like that. It was 512. It would have been 9 rounds of Swiss.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was either 4-5 or 5-4 at the end.
Okay.
Which I was perfectly happy with. I had no illusions about being the great.
You didn't think you were going to be super competitive, is what you're saying?
No.
That makes sense.
It feels, and that's always been the case for me.
Sure, because you know though that you're not going to put the grind into trying to get better, right? It feels like that you're not there to. Yeah. You're not going to put the time to practice rooms and to get the strats down and stuff like that.
There were some times earlier on where I would put in some real time on some of the practicing. So I did some practicing on bosses because those are always going to be sort of a big thing.
Yeah.
Getting a reasonable. Moth can get real out of hand if you're not careful. Cold Stare could be a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
Trinex fights, of course, Ganon, Final Ganon. I still can't consistently do the 1-on-1 cycle with Tempered on Ganon.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I could do it occasionally, but I'm just not super consistent with it because of the timing on the slashes and spins.
Mm-hmm.
But it's possible,
Sure.
So but making sure that you can do those one, in a reasonable amount of time, and two, safely, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're low on health and things like that, you need to be able to actually get it done and not die, because going back to those fights is the worst. That's how you really lose time, dying on bosses. So
for sure.
Places where there was tons and tons of time to lose, I did put in some effort earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, I haven't really put in a ton of effort other than, learning new tricks and things like that.
Sure. So between like 2018 and 2020, it felt like I didn't see you as often racing and doing commentary. Has your relationship over the last couple of years with the game changed, or do you feel like it's always been that way?
I consider myself fairly active until like 2021 or so.
Okay.
But mostly like the ladder got involved.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so a lot of that became 1v1 races and that sort of thing. And I was doing less of the random pickup races here and there.
Were you not racing on the ladder? Have you not been racing on the ladder?
I have. Back then I was racing on the ladder like almost all the time. Like most of the time when I would do a stream, it would be because there was a ladder race I wanted to do at the time.
I see. Okay.
But I wasn't quite good at it. And most of the time, because I'm just that guy, I would be trying to race in my favorite mode on the ladder, which is cross keys, because I'm a huge nerd.
Sure.
And so I can understand how people might not want to mess around with cross keys, but I love it. And so I
get it.
I'm not good.
Sure, it's fun. It's a bigger puzzle, right? Like you're just trying to put more pieces together than a regular open or standard seed, for sure.
All right, so I have done a race on the ladder in this season. I've done one.
Okay.
But so I've actually done a total of 100 ladder races. So,
okay. So yeah, you put your time in on the ladder for sure.
But 60 of those have been cross keys because of that guy.
Sure. I mean, it's the best mode, so why not?
Though, if you look at this and you see my record in these things, you'd think I'm the best at like casual boots, because I have a 7-2 record in that category. Unless you go look at the ones that were qualifiers for the Casual Boots Invitational, at which point I'm 0-6 on those. So it's just like, oh no. But that is part of why I actually joined the Casual Boots tournament this last bit too, just because I think it's fun.
Sure.
Well, and a little less stressful.
Yeah, totally. And less of a time commitment too. You're not usually as long as the cross keys.
That is mainly why my actual playing has trailed off in the last couple of years, is because of the time commitment. But I've also got like personal circumstances that have made it a little more difficult for me to want to get in front of people and stream and things like that. I'd be perfectly willing to talk about the sorts of circumstances that have come up recently. It's actually quite cathartic to talk about it.
Sure.
I'll warn you, it's not pretty.
Sure. I'm all about, sharing, the things that you want to share to get off your chest, to kind of help. A lot of times we hold all this stuff in and it just makes it worse. So yeah, feel free to share as much as you want.
So in the context, I was talking about my family, how we, do singing and things growing up. And I had my grandmother who had the Nintendo growing up and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things, my youngest brother, when he started raising his family, he named his first daughter. He was 5 years old. Very nice. But about 9 months ago at this point, we found out that my dad had been inappropriate with as a while watching her and keeping a hold of her. And he's now off in prison serving like at least 15 years, 30 years with possibility of parole after 15 for that particular offense. I do applaud him for actually coming forward on that and not letting it fester and turn into some sort of complex on her end. But it was not a pretty situation.
That's awful for her, especially,
for her,
but for the whole family to have to,
the whole family. My mother is now, living by herself in this house that was meant for both of them, and then he's in a prison across the state, and credit to her, she still loves him and can put up with it and can still communicate with him.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people would hear that and think, okay, well, he's a piece of garbage and is no longer worth being a human being. And as much as my brain wants to say that, I can't, because he's my dad.
Right. Right.
And he was one of the very few examples I had in my life of people I thought were a good, decent human being up until that point.
Right. So it completely rocks your world of like, if this person that I've been looking up to my whole life is capable of these sort of atrocities or whatever, then
what am I going to do,
Right. Yeah. It shakes everything up. So
I actually did, for a while, I was seeing a counselor and a therapist about those sorts of things, just because, I'm like, this is big enough. I can't deal with it by myself,
Yeah, it's great.
And I definitely would recommend anybody who is in an actual crisis, please don't try to do it on your own. You know what I mean? Don't.
Yeah, 100%. On 216, I've really advocated for mental health. Like, I feel like just so much of just talking stuff through, and obviously I'm not a therapist, I am not a counselor. I would always recommend someone to get professional help, but just having someone listen to your story and listen to the struggles that you have, I feel like it's just a great place to start understanding, healing, you know what I mean? Like, getting it off and not having to carry that weight on your own, I feel is so important. So I'm the perpetual bachelor of the family, not necessarily on purpose, but because that's where my life has taken me. Mm-hmm.
So this affected me a bit, but it also really affected my two brothers. My first brother, he's 2 years younger than I am. And he has 3 children that are 9 years old, 3 years old, and 1 year old.
Mm.
And his wife is soon to be ex-wife at this point, because in the wake of this whole process, she went full on psychopath.
Wow.
Like, she had always been she'd always been pretty unstable. But she was, abusive and so he is ending up gonna probably have I don't know when that's gonna get finalized, but they're going through divorce procedures. And so Philip is currently living at my house, working on various projects around town for people's houses, because he's actually good at that. And he originally came up here because my house had been really messed with. Like we had to, I had to fix the ceiling because there was a leak in the roof at one point. And then there was this dumb thing that happened where I turned on my washing machine when I went to bed. I woke up like 6-7 hours later. It was still running and it was overflowing.
Right.
And the washing machine is upstairs. And so all the ceiling for the downstairs was just completely destroyed.
Oh, geez.
So I had to go live in a hotel for like a month while they cleaned out what was apparently asbestos from the ceiling. So blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But my brother, God bless him, he was he's very good at home repairs and things, and can put that sort of stuff together. And so he's been dealing with that, or he got that taken care of, and then he's been doing other jobs like that around town. But he's been staying here with me. And then my other brother, who is the father of the child in question, and also another child. So he has 2 children, one of which is 5 and the other which is 2, I believe. I'm not defending him on this one, but it turns out that in the wake of this deal with my father, he ended up cheating on his wife with some other woman because of various things. I don't even know what the reasoning was. Like, there probably wasn't reasoning. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're sort of on the rocks now. And now my other brother is also living at my house.
So there's a lot of weight on your shoulders right now.
So the point is, I got people living in my house now.
Yeah. And that, I mean, so it comes in a different ways, right? Like you've got the added pressure of people living in your house. Your brother's now living with you. Fallout from the stuff that your dad did. The fallout from the stuff that your brothers are dealing with. And it kind of puts Rando into perspective, right? Like It's like, well, who cares about this dumb game? I got real stuff to deal with and things to really just kind of sort out, right? Like it feels like there's a reason not to race, or even when you get a chance to race, a way to escape that.
Though I will say it does make a very nice distraction when I've got when I'm just like, I don't want to think about things right now.
Yeah.
I want to do other things.
For sure.
That's why a lot of it, for a lot of the times, I'm much more interested in doing the commentary stuff still, because while my streams haven't been as common recently, I have sort of been ramping back up into the commentary booth a lot more often, at least for tournament. I actually served as one of the moderators for the commentary team for the main tournament this last time.
Nice.
I even put in my application for admin stuff for the new racing.
The TARC.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't imagine that's going to be a huge deal. I think there are people more qualified than I am, but I'm perfectly willing to serve, and I'm willing to not be, to not blow up in people's faces about a game.
Sure. Here's one thing I've noticed about you, Bob, over the years, and especially today as we do this podcast. You undersell yourself way too much, man. Like you're a value to the community. You're a value as a commentator, as a racer, and as a person. You sound like just a good person, like a genuinely decent, good person. So stop underselling yourself is the one thing would be my big takeaway from this episode. Because every time you've mentioned racing, you talk about how you're not good, and it's almost like you're giving life to the fact that you are not good, which is hogwash. Like we're as good as we make ourselves out to be. Really, like if you want to put the time into the game and get better, I'm 100% sure that you could compete with some of the other racers in the community. You got a lot of shit going on though. Like
I do.
and trying to manage it all and just let the game be a game, right? Like I feel like there's a good, healthy relationship to have with it. So it doesn't have to be
right.
You don't have to undersell yourself. You don't have to add the caveat of I'm not that good at this game, because you look at your ladder races, you're winning races.
Yeah, I'm a respectable 45 and 55 overall.
Sure. So I mean, it's a randomizer, right? And it's not something, again, that as we talked about, your time is valuable. You don't have a whole lot of it to give to the game, and when you do, you win almost 50% of your races. I feel that's pretty good. So I would. I'm
not worried about my level of competitiveness, really.
Sure, but you do undersell yourself. You do talk about how you're not good. You gotta knock that one off. I do have
that habit of unintentional self-deprecation.
Yeah.
I do got to work on that a little bit.
Yeah. Because again, I loved listening to you on commentary during the 512. I really did, and it was one of the reasons why I wanted to check the game out and be a part of the community. So, one step leads to another and leads to another, and you never know how you affect other people around you. And I've been in part of this community for 5 years now. You've been a little bit over 6. We haven't really had a chat like this before, and I've never really had an opportunity to tell you that before. So you didn't even know, right? Like, so it feels like you never know how you affect people or the way you can have an impact.
Honestly, okay, so this is going to make me seem like a big jerk face, but I get it. The first time I actually heard about the 216 podcast is when I was in that commentary the other day, and you said, I should get Dr. Bob on 216 sometime. I was like, what's 216? Yeah. It's a thing. That's cool. And so I went back and I looked at some things, and there's a lot of runners in there that I, have a reasonable connection with. I met Shireen real well at the GDQ the one time I was there.
Yeah.
I mean, he was there because I've been back to GDQ a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. Walther,
Yeah.
Walther, he and I were part of a 2-player team for this, like, it was really weird, like randomized tournament sort of thing, where we like came out of nowhere, and it was like Gamer Cal and one other.
Oh yeah.
We beat them by sandbagging the powder.
Okay.
It was a bingo thing, and
Okay.
one of the things on the board was kill a dead rock.
Mm.
And we had the powder for a long time, but we wanted to wait until we could fill out that line before we actually did it.
Mm-hmm.
And so out of nowhere, anyways, it was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had this. It was like a co-op tournament. It was fun, and so I had a decent amount of interaction with Walther. I went back and listened to the episode you had with Leoria, if you remember, because I was like, I do remember, having her for the mentor tournament.
Yeah. She talked a lot about you in that episode.
I was like, I went in there and I was like, oh, now I'm sad. Really,
sure. For sure.
That was cute. And so I appreciate all the love that people have given me. I don't know how much of it I deserve, but I will take it.
Stop underselling yourself, man. Stop doing it. You're a big part of the community, whether you like it or not, or whether you realize it or not. Like, again, you affect people, whether you're winning tournaments or not. That doesn't really mean anything. I mean, there's so many of us that I've never won anything. So, that I can't put any sort of value on that. But, I loved listening to you do commentary and continue to do it as well. So don't, focus. You can always focus on the things that you do really well. If winning and losing is important, which it doesn't have to be, find the things that you are winning at. And, again, talking through a lot of the shit that you're going through, makes me realize, like, man, you're handling it. I hope you're able to handle it, and I hope that you're able to carry it. And it seems like a lot of your family relies on you to get through a lot of it as well. So
I am in a fortunate. I used to think that like I said, I'm the perpetual bachelor, not necessarily by choice.
Mm-hmm.
I used to think, well, this is all my younger brothers are all have families and everything, and I got nothing here in that department. And now I'm thinking, I don't want to call divine or divine providence.
Sure.
This is sort of a situation where I'm coincidentally best equipped to be able to help out my two brothers going through this. So it's it's at least a situation where I'm glad I was able to help.
Sure. And also, you don't have to listen to the show to be on the show. Like, that's not a requirement. I want to make sure you know that.
Yeah.
And everyone,
I did go back and listen to at least that one, because I was like, I bet that one's going to be interesting, and a few others.
Sure.
And I went the other day. I listened to the emergency podcast on all the drama that was happening.
Sure.
It was
Sure.
like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm going to ask you the final question that I ask everyone. And again, it might be a little bit different because of your relationship with the competitive side, but
right.
How do you handle tilt, whether it's in the middle of a race or at the end of a seed?
So as far as tilt goes, I don't handle it. Well, I don't know about that, but I don't usually experience it that much, because I kind of have it in perspective. I'm like, I'm going to do what I can, and if I fail, that's my own fault because I didn't prepare. But there was this most recent, or not the most recent casual, or maybe it was the most recent casual booth race I did in the tournament, where I actually did feel tilted quite a bit, because there were a couple of things, there were just execution mistakes left and right, and things that I knew I should have been able to do correctly. And I ended up losing that race by just a little bit. And you were pissed. I was mad in the middle. And I was thinking, like, I was telling my stream, look, I'm going to, as soon as my opponent finishes, I am going to forfeit this seed, because I do not want to continue. And that's when that happens. If I say that, that's when I'm tilted, because I know that at this point I do not want to continue. I will, and I'll try to block it out as best I can. because it's not over until it's over. And it turns out I did end up finishing that seed because my opponent didn't finish until I was on Ganon. So like it was close at the end, but I thought I was absolutely out of it, and I was only mostly out of it.
Sure. That almost makes it worse, right? Like you wanted them to finish way sooner.
Yeah.
So you could quit playing. But
I did take one off of DT the other day, so that was fun.
So is your approach then just step away? Like don't continue if you get
in a seed. If it's part of a race that I'm trying to win, I will continue, and I will just need to focus more on trying to play the game than trying to be entertaining. That makes sense?
Sure.
Because when I'm tilted, I will not be entertaining. I will be mad. And when I'm not tilted, or like otherwise, I'm usually trying to be somewhat entertaining, even though when I'm in a race, I'm not watching my chat because I don't want there to be any sort of
spoilers or shenanigans
or any thing of impropriety at all. You know what I mean?
Yep, for sure. Yep. All right, man. Thank you so much for doing the show. I'm really glad that we got a chance to just sit down and chat. Sorry it's taken so long for us to kind of have any sort of communication, but I'm a fan, and I was glad I was able to catch up.
Yeah, no problem. So I wanted to mention, if anybody wanted to check out my songs, right? So I gave you the link there, right? SoundCloud. I wanted to mention a few songs that I think are my best ones.
Okay.
If you want to listen to like one or two. So probably the best one that I ever made, and it was like the second one I ever made, is Where in the World is the Godforsaken Ice Rod?
Okay.
It's based off of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. Right?
Sure. Yeah, classic.
I'll Make a Ham Out of You. It's probably my favorite. Another one of my favorites. It's based off of the Mulan song "I'll Make a Man Out of You." It's about Silverless Ganon.
Okay. All right.
I have one here. This is for Ocarina of Time Randomizer, but it's called Cluck You. It's about chickens.
Got it.
And then probably the other best one I like is it's called In Go Mode, and it's a Boys to Men parody.
Perfect.
So if you want the essential DoctorBobtastic acapella ridiculousness experience, those are the four I recommend. Otherwise, feel free to not ever listen to that if you don't want to. But I enjoy putting those out, and I'm got a couple in the works. I just need to actually sit down and do it. But other than that, I enjoyed being on the broadcast. Thanks for having me. Thanks for putting up with my shenanigans, and I appreciate all the love, man.
All right, big shout out to Dr. Bob. Really glad to have him on the show. I was really glad that he was able to not only share some of the hard stuff, but share a lot of the good stuff. Like, I really enjoyed hearing about the singing. I'd recommend checking out his SoundCloud. The link is in the description of the episode. Some really fun songs that he's done. I do miss him doing the flute activation songs. Those were always a lot of fun, and I do miss that. So thanks again to Dr. Bob for coming on the show and for just being an awesome dude. All right, next week we got Kaysden on the show, completing the JKLOL League Team group. Great conversation with Kaysden. I had so much fun chatting with him, and I think you all will enjoy that one too. So make sure you come back for that next week. Football's just about to start. 216 Fantasies draft is Sunday, so I'm very excited about that. A couple of new members in the 216 Fantasy League. That's going to be fun. 216pod.com has the links that you would need. You can get the link to join the Discord from there. Baseball playoffs around the corner. NFL season starting up. I know hockey's coming soon. So a lot of sports talk going to be happening over there. Don't want to miss that. If you could leave a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify, that would help the show. Appreciate that. Yeah, and as we kind of like navigate these like trying times in rando, there's just a sense of division that I hope that we can heal from. Just remember that we're playing a game that we're supposed to have fun with. I think that's the most important thing. Gotta have fun. And if you're not having fun, then maybe a break will help. I know it helped me. Either way, I hope you listen to the show. I hope you enjoy it. Come back next week for Kaysden. Thanks for listening. See you then.